Here are 21 computer settings that fuck your focus, meaning you get no work done and constantly get distracted. For the first setting, you want to go to rise.io and download the app. A lot of you say that you're working for 8, 10, or 12 hours a day, but 10 hours in front of your computer is not 10 hours of work. This will show you exactly which parts of the day you're most focused, which tasks take most of your time, and how often you're getting distracted, so you can then optimize how you're using your time and know which tasks to delegate if needed. The next thing you want to do again with rise.io is after you've downloaded it, go ahead and click projects, and then you want to create 2 projects, deep work and admin work. Then by assigning specific keywords to each project, the app will now flag what you're doing and will automatically categorize it as either deep work or admin work. By the way, once you start using more and more apps, softwares, or websites to either do deep work or admin work, you want to make sure that you keep updating your keywords in the projects to keep the tracker as accurate as possible. The next thing you need to do is after you've let Rise run in the background for a while you're working for a few hours, you want to click home and click here, view details. Now here you will see exactly what you did within that work block and where you spent each minute of your time. What you want to do is click here and categorize each app and website according to what's most appropriate for your work. After you've done all 3 settings, your Rise will now look something like this. You'll know exactly how many hours you're actually working per day. You'll know how many of these hours are breaks or distractions, how many of these hours are meetings, and how many of these hours are focused work. You'll know how much deep or admin work you're doing per day, at what times of the day you're most focused, and where you're mostly spending your time each day. Next thing you need to do is you want to go to todoist.com and download the app. Once you've done that, you want to go to filters and labels and create the labels admin and deep and favorite them. Now here's how you'll use Todoist to maximize your focus. The point of this software is to categorize your work based on priority and based on if it's admin or deep. So you keep working on your tasks, and when an idea pops up, the hotkey that you need to use to dump this idea into your system, into Todoist, is use Control and Q. And when you press Control and Q, this will pop up, which will allow you to type your task, categorize it, put your label, and then click enter, and that will categorize it in the back of the system without you having to actively retain that information, draining your mental real estate in the background. Number 5 is you want to go to system settings, go to focus, do not disturb, and then only allow your few people for emergencies, and then set a schedule for deep work every day so that your computer automatically gets into focus mode and you don't get any notifications or calls. The next thing in the list is going to be freedom.to. So you want to go to the website, download the app, sync your device, and then create a block list. You want to add your block list, name your block list, select the blocked apps and websites, and then click save. Then once you're ready to start a work block, you want to go to the top right, select block lists and apps if necessary, and then start a session. This setting will prevent the distractions that happen every time you try to focus on one specific thing. You know what I'm talking about. When you want to write a Google Doc, for example, and as you're trying to focus, you find yourself ending up on WhatsApp, Slack, Gmail, etc., and you end up doing 50 unrelated tasks, and the task that should have taken you 1 hour to be completed, it now takes you 3 hours. So that is what the setting is going to do. Now, if you have to use social media or distracting websites for work, then you need to install either undistracted or social focus. Picture this. You open YouTube to come up with an idea for a new video. And as you open YouTube, you see all of these different interesting ideas, and you're like, oh, let me see what happened in this video. It's only 3 minutes. And before you know it, you've watched 4 videos and wasted 40 minutes just like that. It's not your fault. It's just your brain getting the dopamine it craves for. Simply because your work is boring and you have to put the effort in before you get rewarded. So by implementing this setting, you'll be able to use YouTube, Twitter, or Instagram for focused work without getting distracted like a small child. Even if you do all 21 settings, but you mess up this one here, your focus will be screwed. It's not so much a computer setting, but it's simply putting your phone in a different room while you work. You see, even if your phone is far away from you, but in the same room, your subconscious will keep thinking about it, especially if it's in your peripheral vision. This will drain your mental energy and prevent you from entering in flow state, simply because every time your brain tries to enter a really focused state, you automatically think, oh, check Instagram, check DMs, did I get any important emails? So by simply putting your phone in a completely different room, you can still get up and get it, but the friction is so high that it's almost impossible to do. And a cool thing that happens when you do put your phone in a different room is that you literally rewire your brain through something called neuroplasticity to stop the long-term bad habit of constantly checking your phone. Now, in the rare 1% case of you needing your phone to work, the thing I'd recommend you use is something called Brick. You go to the getbrick.app, shop now, and you get this thing right here. Now, you probably probably seen other apps that block distractions like Opal, and this is not a diss to the apps whatsoever, but the problem with these apps is that you can easily bypass them by waiting a few extra seconds. The thing that this break does is that you just can't bypass it. In order for you to bypass a distracting app, you literally have to go to the device and physically tap it with your phone. So if you set it up, put your brake in your car, or give it to your partner until a certain time, well, you just can't use the distracting apps and there's no option other than working. Next setting is, especially if you take meetings throughout the day and you use a scheduling app like Calendly, you want to block your calendar for the first 4 to 6 hours of your work. So you can either do this by going to your Google Calendar and marking the first 4 to 6 hours of your work schedule as busy, or by customizing your availability through Calendly directly. The reason this is so important is because you want to leverage your biological clock for focused work. First of all, your circadian clock is going to make you feel the most energized and alert in those first 4 to 6 hours. And if you want to be in the best mental state possible to produce the highest quality work possible, you need to protect these valuable hours for deep, important work. After these first 4 to 6 hours, you can start then taking your meetings and focus on admin work. You see, your body goes through a 90-minute biological cycle every 90 minutes for the whole 24-hour period. This 90-minute cycle controls your brainwaves and your level of alertness, and it's called the ultradian rhythm. It takes around 10 to 15 minutes of uninterrupted focused work for your brainwaves to switch from not focused to really focused. The key word I used here was uninterrupted work. And the thing is that your subconscious filters noise. So whenever you're trying to enter that 90-minute peak performance cycle, but while you're trying to focus, there's all sorts of background noise, your brain will not be able to make that transition. So the thing you need to do here is to use noise canceling earphones that actually work and prevent background noise so that you can easily enter flow state without noise disturbances. I personally use the AirPods Max and their noise cancellation is insane, but you can also use the Bose Quiet Comfort Ultra, Sony WH-1000X-M5, Sennheiser Momentum 4. Now, working in silence is very powerful for focus, but there are specific types of sound that have been engineered to keep your brain engaged, focused, and alert into what you're doing. For this exact reason, movies and games spend millions of dollars on the music they're using to keep the viewer or player so focused that they don't want to stop playing or watching. I've created a focused playlist full of these types of songs I personally use when I'm doing focused work that helps me stay laser focused and get lost in my work. Just go on Spotify, go to browse and type pure focus, select playlists, and this one here, you save it. If your dock looks like this, then you're destroying your focus. See, the more apps and information you have in front of you, the more choices your brain has of different things to do. This is a form of clutter that your subconscious has to constantly filter out, which drains your focus and mental energy. Instead, just keep 3 to 5 apps maximum that you use all the time. Talking about the clutter, the next thing on the list is removing the clutter from your desktop and keeping it as minimalistic as possible. For the same reason as before, even if you don't actively think about it, your brain subconsciously filters all the clutter you have in front of you, which makes maintaining a high level of focus and energy much more difficult. When it comes to removing clutter from your peripheral vision, this setting is by far the most effective for your focus. My desk used to look like this all of the time. I thought that it didn't matter that much until I kept my desk empty and removed all the unnecessary clutter, not only from my desk, but from my peripheral vision. Accessing flow state was 10 times easier. The reason is the same as with keeping your desktop and your dock minimalistic. Your brain filters all of the clutter, bombarding your focus. So simply keep your desk and everything surrounding your peripheral vision as minimalistic as possible. The less information your brain has to process, the better and longer you'll be able to focus for. But if you're working like most people do, there is still this one thing that literally changes your brain chemistry from energized to sleepy and significantly lowers your focus. And this setting is the standing desk. When you're working like this, you're triggering parts of the brain involved in sleepiness, making you less alert and less focused. So instead, my favorite way of maintaining peak productivity is by using a standing desk. It will help you maintain an upright posture that will trigger parts of the brain that are involved in wakefulness, but it will also help you burn more calories and increase blood flow, which is also good for maintaining high levels of focus throughout the whole day. The next thing that goes along with the standing desk is having a monitor that forces you to direct your vision slightly upwards. It's not just your back posture that affects your focus, but most importantly, your vision. Looking downwards, you'll feel sleepy and tired, but looking slightly upwards will again trigger the parts of the brain that are responsible for alertness. So use a monitor arm that will allow you to adjust the height of your monitor so that you can direct your vision upwards instead of below eye level. To To top off the perfect workstation setting combination, you'll need a walking pad. Walking while working increases blood flow, increases oxygen intake, and boosts energy levels. This leads to improved concentration, alertness, creativity, and focus, which in turn will boost your productivity. Walking triggers the production of new brain cells by triggering the production of something called BDNF, which slows down cognitive impairment. A Stanford University study found that a person's creative output increased by an average of 60% when walking. I use my walking pad every time I'm on a coaching call or a team call, and it helps me 1. Be significantly more productive and alert on my calls, 2. Improve my mood and decrease my stress levels, and 3. Get 15k to 20k steps done effortlessly, which allows me to stay lean all year round. In the first half of the day, you need to expose your eyes to as much blue light as possible. Your circadian clock requires a ton of bright blue light in the beginning of the day to start producing dopamine, cortisol, and adrenaline, which will stimulate you and keep you as alert as possible. Now, when working, because most of the time you won't be able to get exposed to enough blue light in your office unless you're working outdoors, you can use something like an Elgato key light in front of you to trigger the production of cortisol, dopamine, and adrenaline in order to keep you focused while working. Now, the exact opposite happens in the later half of the day. More specifically, in the last 2 to 3 hours of the day, you want to avoid all bright lights as much as possible. This is important because your brain now needs to start producing a hormone called melatonin, which is required in order for your circadian clock to work properly and in order for you to get good sleep throughout the night and wake up feeling energized and refreshed the next day. So 2 to 3 hours before bed, turn off that key light, but most importantly, dim your devices down. So if you're using your laptop, just dim down your screen as much as possible. And if you're using an external monitor, just dim it down enough so you can barely see to do your basic work. Another important setting you need to implement to allow your circadian clock to work properly so that the next day when you start working, you're able to effortlessly enter flow state again is avoiding blue light, as we just said. So the way you minimize blue light from your screen is by going to f.lux, download, open the app, and set it up based on your wake up time so that it automatically dims down based on your daily rhythm. Another thing you can do here is go to your system settings, displays, go to night shift, and schedule it based on your sleep time. This will allow your brain to produce enough melatonin at night, and as a result, when it's time for you to go to bed, you will not feel alert and stimulated, but sleepy, and will be able to fall asleep and stay asleep properly, which will allow you to wake up feeling refreshed and energized the next day in order to attack your work. But if you truly want to maximize your potential and be able to get more stuff done in less time so that you can make more money by working less, then you also need to look at things like your sleep quality, your diet, your daily routine, your exercise program, and your energy management. And there is a specific protocol I've used to help hundreds of high-level entrepreneurs maximize their potential and make more money while working less by becoming super productive. So if you want similar results, check out this video here where I show you what this protocol is and how you can use it too so that you can maximize your work output and productivity.